My name is Marie, and I just turned 28. I should have been celebrating my promotion to regional manager, toasting with friends, maybe finally booking that vacation I'd been putting off for years. Instead, I was standing in my childhood kitchen at 2 a.m., warming up a bottle for my 3-year-old nephew while my 15-year-old brother Tommy sat at the table, struggling with calculus homework that was due the next morning. Mom had texted earlier. Out with David tonight. Back tomorrow. Thanks, honey. The same message I'd been receiving for over a decade, just with different boyfriend names. Something inside me finally snapped after years of being the unpaid, unacknowledged third parent in a house where I was supposed to be the eldest daughter, not the mother. I looked at Tommy, dark circles under his eyes from staying up too late again because there was no one to enforce bedtime, and then at little Marcus, my sister's son who lived with us more often than with his actual mother. The weight of responsibility I'd been carrying since I was 13 felt heavier than ever. This wasn't supposed to be my life. But here's the thing that really gets me. Just last week, during one of her rare appearances at Sunday dinner, Mom looked at me across the table and said, "You know, Sarah, you were never really the maternal type. It's probably good you haven't had kids yet." She said this while I was cutting up food for Marcus, reminding Tommy about his science project and planning grocery runs for the week. I need you to understand something. I didn't choose this life. It chose me when I was 13 years old, and everyone just assumed I was okay with it. We lived in a small 3-bedroom house in suburbia. Mom worked part-time at a dental office, which gave her plenty of flexibility for her dating life. Dad had left when I was 12, Tommy was 5, and my sister Jenny was 8. The divorce wasn't messy, it was worse than that. It was indifferent. After Dad left, Mom went through what she called her rediscovery phase. She started dating within 3 months, and each new relationship meant more nights out, more mornings when she wouldn't come home, more responsibilities falling on my shoulders without anyone asking if I could handle them. Tommy was always the sensitive one, the kid who needed structure and reassurance. Jenny was rebellious from the start, acting out in ways that demanded attention Mom wasn't willing to give. I became the mediator, the homework helper, the one who packed lunches and signed permission slips when Mom was too busy or hung over to deal with administrative details. The house had an unspoken hierarchy. Mom did what she wanted, Jenny did what she wanted, Tommy tried to stay invisible, and I held everything together. Nobody questioned this arrangement because it worked for everyone except me. The turning point came when I was 16 and had to miss my junior prom because Tommy had strep throat and Mom was on a weekend getaway with boyfriend number 4. I remember sitting in the emergency room at midnight, still in my prom dress, holding Tommy's hand while he cried from pain and fever. It started small. Mom would ask me to watch Tommy and Jenny for just a couple hours while she went on dates. Those couple hours became entire weekends. The babysitting became cooking, cleaning, helping with homework, attending parent-teacher conferences when she was busy. By the time I was 15, I was forging her signature on school documents because she'd forget to sign them. I learned to cook not because I enjoyed it, but because frozen dinners every night weren't sustainable. I opened my first savings account to buy school supplies and clothes for Tommy and Jenny when Mom's money went to her social life. The normalization happened gradually. Friends stopped inviting me out because I always had to decline due to family responsibilities. Teachers started calling me for updates on Tommy's progress instead of calling Mom. Jenny began introducing me as basically my mom to her friends. What's devastating is how everyone praised me for being so mature and such a good big sister. Adults would tell Mom how lucky she was to have such a responsible daughter. But nobody ever asked what I wanted or needed. The warning signs were everywhere. I had panic attacks before school events because I was managing logistics for 3 kids. I never dated in high school because I didn't have time. I chose a local college so I could continue living at home and helping. Everyone saw these signs as admirable sacrifice, not as a childhood being stolen. Let me give you some specific examples of what my normal looked like. When Tommy was in 8th grade, he broke his arm during basketball practice. The school called Mom first, but she was at a wine country weekend with David. They called me second, and I left my college statistics exam to drive him to the hospital. I spent 6 hours in the ER, handled all the paperwork, and took him home. Mom returned 2 days later with a bottle of wine, and a sorry I missed the drama attitude. When Jenny was 17, she got pregnant. She told me first, not Mom. I was the one who drove her to appointments, researched options, held her hand during difficult conversations. Mom found out 3 months later, and was more upset about being left out than about supporting her daughter through a crisis. The financial impact was staggering. By the time I graduated college, I had spent over $15,000 of my own money on family expenses. Groceries, utility bills when mom's paycheck went to date nights, emergency expenses, school supplies, even rent contributions when mom was between jobs or spending too much on her social life. I kept detailed records because I'm naturally organized, but looking back at those numbers now makes me sick. That money could have been my graduate school fund, a down payment on an apartment, the foundation for my own adult life. My relationships suffered enormously. I dated a wonderful guy named Michael for 2 years in college. He broke up with me because, in his words, "I never felt like I was dating you. I felt like I was dating your entire family's problems." He wasn't wrong. Our dates were interrupted by family crises. I canceled romantic plans for family emergencies. I couldn't commit to weekend trips because what if something happened at home? My career trajectory was also affected. I turned down internships because they would have required me to be unavailable for family needs. I chose jobs based on flexibility rather than growth potential. I was excellent at what I did, but I wasn't reaching my potential because half my mental energy was always reserved for family management. Friends started calling me Mom as a joke, but it stung because it was true. I was everyone's emergency contact, problem solver, financial backup, and emotional support system. And I was exhausted. The final straw came on my 28th birthday. I had planned a small dinner with friends, nothing elaborate, just a celebration of finally getting that promotion I'd worked so hard for. I had made reservations for 6 people at a nice restaurant downtown. At 4 p.m., Mom called. "Sarah, honey, I hate to do this, but Marcus is sick and Jenny has to work, and David surprised me with tickets to that concert I mentioned. Can you watch him tonight? I know it's your birthday, but family comes first, right?" I stood in my apartment, already dressed for dinner, looking at myself in the mirror. I was wearing a new dress I'd bought specifically for this occasion, the first piece of clothing I'd purchased for myself in months. And I realized I was about to cancel my own birthday celebration to babysit my nephew while my mother went to a concert with her boyfriend. That's when it hit me. The audacity. The complete lack of awareness. The casual assumption that my life, my plans, my happiness would always be secondary to everyone else's convenience. I said no. It was the first time in 15 years I had said no to a family request. Mom was silent for a long moment, then said, "Sarah, I'm really disappointed in you. This is so unlike you. Family is supposed to support each other." I hung up and went to dinner with my friends. But I couldn't enjoy it because I was racked with guilt and anxiety about Marcus being sick and Jenny having to manage alone. The next morning, I drove to the house and found chaos. Marcus was running a fever, Tommy had missed school because he'd stayed up all night worried about the baby, and Jenny was exhausted from trying to handle everything alone while working her evening shift. But Mom wasn't there. She was still at David's place, posting Instagram stories from their romantic morning brunch. I took care of the immediate crisis, got Marcus to the pediatrician, helped Tommy catch up on missed assignments, and made sure Jenny got some rest. But I also made a decision that would change everything. I called a family meeting for that Sunday. I prepared what I was going to say like I was giving a business presentation, because that's the only way I knew how to approach difficult conversations anymore. "I've been thinking about my role in this family," I began, "and I've realized that somewhere along the way, I became responsible for problems that aren't mine to solve. I've been acting as an unpaid nanny, housekeeper, financial contributor, and crisis manager for 15 years, and it's not sustainable anymore." Mom's response was immediate and defensive. "Sarah, you're being dramatic. We all help each other out. That's what families do." "No," I said, and my voice was steadier than I expected. "What families do is support each other equally. What we've been doing is making me responsible for everyone else's choices and consequences while pretending it's normal." I outlined specific changes. I would no longer be the automatic babysitter for last-minute plans. I would not contribute financially to household expenses unless there was a genuine emergency. I would not be the primary contact for Tommy's school issues unless Mom was genuinely unavailable. I would not manage other people's medical appointments, work schedules, or personal crises. The resistance was immediate and intense. Mom accused me of being selfish and abandoning the family. Jenny said I was being weird and controlling. Tommy, bless him, just looked relieved that someone was finally talking about the elephant in the room. The first few months were brutal. Mom had to actually parent Tommy, which meant learning his schedule, attending school events, and dealing with teenage drama she'd been outsourcing to me for years. She was resentful and frequently commented on how difficult everything had become. Jenny had to figure out childcare for Marcus without relying on my automatic availability. This meant having real conversations with the baby's father about responsibility and making tough decisions about work and parenting balance. Tommy, surprisingly, thrived with the new structure. When Mom was forced to be present and involved, he responded positively. Their relationship improved because it was finally direct rather than filtered through me. I started therapy to work through years of parentification and boundary issues. I learned words for what had happened to me and strategies for maintaining healthy relationships with my family without sacrificing my own well-being. Most importantly, I began building the life I'd always wanted but never had time for. I started dating again, pursued friendships that were reciprocal rather than one-sided, and made career moves based on my own goals rather than my family's needs. The relationship with my mother remains complicated. She still doesn't fully understand why I made the changes I made. Last month, she told a friend that I'd gone through a selfish phase, but was hopefully getting back to normal. The lack of insight is still painful, but I've learned not to expect recognition or gratitude that may never come. Today, I have a life that's actually mine. I'm in a relationship with someone who sees me as a whole person, not just a caretaker. I'm pursuing a master's degree in business management. I have savings in my bank account that I'm not afraid to spend on myself. My family is still my family, and I love them. But I love them now from a place of choice rather than obligation. I help when I can and want to, not because I'm automatically expected to sacrifice my own needs. The most important thing I've learned is that being a good daughter or sister doesn't require being a martyr. Taking care of yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do for your family is to stop enabling their dysfunction and start modeling what healthy boundaries look like. If you recognize yourself in this story, I want you to know that your needs matter too. Your dreams matter. Your time and energy and emotional well-being matter. You don't have to set yourself on fire to keep everyone else warm. The woman who raised her siblings while her mother went out with boyfriends deserves recognition, not criticism. She deserves support, not more responsibility. And she definitely deserves to hear that she was, in fact, incredibly maternal when maternity was forced upon her far too young. Sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is finally say no.